On the day of Christmas, the 90s gave to me 5 punches to the face, 4 malicious rumors, 3 surrounding nows, 2 grumpy old men, and a Xena warrior princess.
Yeah, it always sounds like...
I think that worked out much better than last time.
It did. Except you said start at 1 and I didn't, so...
Welcome to Namely 90s. The podcast that takes you back to the time before smartphones, Google, and Y2K. Join your hosts as they relive the pop culture that shaped a generation and the parts that many people wish they could forget. Listen in to the conversation about how the decade defined those who spent their childhood there and how it shaped them as adults. So, turn down the grunge and dial up the internet. Let's get started. It's time for Namely 90s.
Yes, that's right. You're listening to Namely 90s. This is Andrew, and over there as usual is Brandon.
That's me.
You can find us online at namely90s.com or on Twitter at namely90s with a 90s. Today marks episode 5 of our 12 Days of Christmas special, and to welcome our guest, we're going to go over to Brandon.
First, Merry Christmas, everyone. Today is the 25th.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah.
I knew that because this is clearly being recorded on Christmas.
Right? And you definitely brought your Christmas present that I forgot to tell our guests that you're going to be opening at one point during the episode, right?
I actually do have it today.
Oh, there it is. Today we have a really fun guest podcast called Watching Comics Podcast with Jake and Mitch. Jake and Mitch, do you want to tell us about your little pod?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on, by the way. This is super exciting because we get to talk about Batman in another platform than just ours. I'm pretty stoked.
Thank you for coming on to talk about Batman.
This whole thing has been about finding a place to talk about Batman other than my kitchen. So my wife is thrilled at every outlet I get.
That's awesome.
That's how we roll.
Namely 90s is like all Batman. It just comes up every episode, it seems like.
It somehow is seeped into every
It's the gift that keeps on giving, really.
Yeah. I mean, the episode that I first listened to you guys on was the Bat Nipple or Batman Forever, excuse me. Episode. But yeah, tell us about your podcast. I have 2 mild-mannered Nebraskans podcasting on comic book inspired movies and TV.
That's exactly what we do. We are here to give you the most trusted and valuable takes and opinions on the intersection of comic book inspired entertainment hitting your screens, both big and small, because
also
it's the 21st
mine.
And also Jake's because it's the 21st century and watching comics is literally a thing. It's an exciting time to be alive. We are proudly a member of the Geek Dad Podcast Network because we're geeks and we're dads. And so, yeah, that's what we do. Every week we drop a new episode on whatever it is we watched that was comic inspired. So, yeah, Jake and I have known each other for, is it like 13 years?
13 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something. Time has ceased to have any meaning.
That's true.
Pretty much. But yeah, that's the Watching Comics Podcast.
Yeah, Andrew, you said we talk about Batman a lot. They did an entire month in September on Batman.
Well, I mean,
true.
if you're going to be a comic book or a comics podcast, you have to be. I mean, you have to talk about Batman that much. I mean, it's not optional at that point. Where can people find you on social, your podcast, etc.?
Great question. Hit us up on Twitter. That's our main platform. We are at Watch Comics Pod. That's comics with an X, at Watch Comics Pod. And we're also on Instagram at Watching Comics. So you can find us on those platforms. And of course, we're a podcast. So hit us up on your favorite pod platform and give us some words and some stars if you're feeling extra generous.
Nice. And you said Twitter, that's comics with an X?
Yep, at Watch Comics Pod, comics with an X.
Cool.
Nice. All right. And let's see. So I thought we should just ask, I think you've already touched on it, but what gave you the idea for a visual watching comics podcast?
Jake, do you want to tell our origin story?
I think
origin story. Yes.
Yes. Sticking with the comics theme, there is a convoluted origin. Mitch and I, we met in college, and we've known each other a while, and after college kind of kept in touch, and here and there, you see each other at events. Mitch had another podcast that wrapped, and being a very creative fellow, he was looking for something to do. And basically, Mitch knows all that there is to know about film. This guy has got just a giant collection of movies, physical media, digital, everything. Mitch is my go-to guy when I need an opinion on a movie. And Mitch calls me actually over Christmas a few years back and says, I need a new outlet. Would you spend too much time in comic book stores? Would you like to come do something that kind of fuses those two things? And Mitch knows plenty about comics, and I've seen a movie or two. So we're both comfortable in both arenas, but I always say he brings the watching, I bring the comics, and we just kind of put it together. And, like I said, it's a creative outlet. It's something that, I think when we started it, we were kind of like, let's just, putz around with this for a year or so and see what happens. And that was like 3 years ago. And now we're at it, and we're just kind of saying, wow, this is enough fun. And at least a couple people outside our families are listening. So we're hanging on.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's kind of like our modus operandi as well. Just have fun for our first year and see what happens.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, if it's not fun, it's not worth it.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I think I read, Mitch, you're a lifelong Superman obsessor.
Of course. Naturally. Yes, I am. I love me, the old All-American Boy Scout. Well, not, I guess, All-American. He's an alien, but you know how it goes.
Grow up in the heartland.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? Yeah. Superman for me. And I don't know if I've met a single living being that knows more about Spider-Man than Jake.
That's awesome.
And that's a lot of movies to keep track of, too. Just say.
And as Andrew keeps reminding us, a lot of actors.
Yeah. But guess what? They're all going to be in the next, the second, third Spider-Man movie. So they'll be all right there.
Yeah. The second, third Spider-Man featuring the third Spider-Man.
Exactly.
I'm kind of excited for that. Although I feel like it's going to go the way of Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW. We'll see how it goes. I think what's going to happen, I don't know. If I had to put money down on anything, I would say that all of these people are going to get like 90 seconds of screen time at best, and they're just going to be walk-on cameos, and Twitter's going to explode with everyone being angry, and then everything will be normal.
Maybe it'll be like the X-Force tease for Deadpool 2. Where they build it up so big and then everybody dies in like 30 seconds.
Just dies in 10 seconds.
What was I going to say? I think half the characters that they've announced are dead already. So it's like, how are they going to cross them over to begin with? But no, that's not why we brought you here. We did bring you here to talk about a DC hero that's not Superman. In animated form. Well, first, I guess today's Christmas. I'm sorry to do this to you guys since you're a guest, but I sent Andrew a Christmas present to open on Christmas Day. Originally, we were just going to do Batman for ourselves, but you guys just fit the mold so well that we had you on for this episode.
Yeah, and for Christmas, I got you thoughts because those count more than.
Thanks.
It's what truly matters.
But also the thoughts don't count if you don't tweet about it. You need to tweet at him and say thoughts.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's your goal. On the actual 25th, you have to tweet Merry Christmas to me and pretend like you're doing it live.
I've got this. Amazon.com was kind enough to wrap this
for
it's
me.
All
Christmassy.
Yeah,
Fancy.
very Christmassy. It says, Merry Christmas. Don't open until recording the December 25th episode from Brandon.
And it also said Jackass at one point, but I don't know why.
I think that's on the card that came inside the package.
Oh, good.
All right, let's see what we got here.
Just remember, we're a 90s nostalgia podcast.
So then there's slime that's going to come down. Right?
Yeah.
Next year.
A bucket of slime is just going to come down. Yeah, somehow.
I might steal that. Andrew's opening the presents.
Yeah. Hold on. I gotta get the cover off so I can show everyone. Son of a bitch.
Oh, it's a feisty present.
I guess we're getting another explicit tag for this episode.
It was just the B word.
One of us said ass once, and now we've got the E constant. Should I have not said that so you guys don't get the E? I just realized what I did to you.
Brandon drops the F-bomb every third episode.
I think we're allowed to just tag a single episode, and if not, I've screwed us over.
It is A Book of Poems, A Knight Without Armor by Jewel.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love this.
Hey, Andrew, I don't know if you know this, but her hands are small. Do you know?
No.
But they're not yours.
They are not yours.
I have a feeling this is going to be a feature on next year's podcast.
Oh yeah,
just a thought.
Since we have guests, we can save that to read sometime in the new year.
Well, that's your new intro, right? Is
Wow.
Andrew reads a poem to launch every episode and welcome everybody to the Namely 90s podcast.
That would be amazing. That should be our new running bumper.
I'd like to start with a short poem. This one is entitled Traffic. Throw yourself into the traffic of his desire. Unpredictable. Red sports car. No helmet in hand. Your heart a potential red smear in the hindsight of his rear view mirror.
Oh, it's so much better than I thought it would be.
This is great. I will cherish this. I'm going to read this.
That verse is going to haunt me tonight. I'm going to be laying awake at 1 a.m. unable to sleep.
You just roll over, honey.
Throw yourself into the traffic.
A red smear. That's a good one.
That is literally the best live unwrapping I've ever seen.
Yeah. That'll be cut out and put as an individual promo. But yes, we brought Jake and Mitch here to talk about Batman the Animated Series, and if they have any Christmas memories they want to share with our audience, I guess this is the time. But I personally,
Christmas is nice. I like it.
Yeah. I had that in for like every episode, but we always just end up talking about the show instead.
Although our other guests just spent like 12 minutes talking about British Christmas, which we can identify with quite as well.
That's in five episodes from now.
We actually bought a box of those Christmas crackers once, just 2 years ago. I think my wife and I were like, let's try this. I saw it on Doctor Who. And that worked out for us.
It's a good enough reason to buy anything. If it's on Doctor Who, it's worth a look.
Mitch, you know how many bad purchases I've made for that very reason, and how many good ones too.
I mean, Doctor Who is definitely an amazing thing. My phone storage is full, so I guess I'm going to be switching to camera B right now. All right. Christmas crackers are awesome. Andrew just learned about them for an episode, 5 episodes from now. I thought that you should have a little...
Throwing a little time travel.
Yeah. I mean, Doctor Who, right?
It's a multiverse.
There we go.
This is comic book related. Just call it a multiverse and it'll make sense.
Yes.
Perfect. So... Batman the Animated Series. I personally, I remember loving it as a kid. It was like the best cartoon from my early childhood. And we on our podcast already did an episode on Batman the Animated Series in September. It was episode 18, September 1992. We talked about how it won a lot of awards.
We talked about how I had never seen it, as with everything else.
I said that Mark Hamill's my Joker, Kevin Conroy's my Batman.
Brandon, you are one of us.
Yeah, we've had that exact conversation. I think we've ranked both the Jokers and the Batman on our show. Ooh. And I'm always just sitting there like, no, I mean, when I read a comic, I hear Kevin Conroy's voice in my head. Like, that's all there is to it.
Every time.
Right? Exactly.
And one of the fun, I guess maybe it's fun for me. I don't know if it's fun for anything else. I run our Twitter account, and I try to make it a point of any time I see somebody on Twitter posting, pick your favorite Batman, and Kevin Conroy's never an option because he never is. I always respond with Kevin Conroy. I feel like it's part of our job to right that wrong, and we're doing our part.
What do you think is the universally sort of accepted or most common favorite Batman?
Oh man. So honestly, I think
it has to do with your age.
It depends
That's
on the
fair.
age. Anybody, I'm speaking in gross generalities, and now I'm just going to make everybody on Twitter
A
mad.
few people.
But it seems to be anybody under the age of like 23 is going to ride or die with Affleck because they love Zack Snyder. And anybody older is going to be typically prone to pick Keaton, which is a perfectly valid and wonderful pick. But Jake and I, we ride for Kevin Conroy in Batman month, which we did in September. We culminated the whole thing in picking the top 5 Batman movies. He had a list, I had a list, and our lists were a little bit different, but we both had Batman Mask of the Phantasm in the number 1 slot. And that's directly tied to Batman TAS. So like that just kind of gives you a little preview into how much we ride for that show.
Wait,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, wait, no one said Adam West?
I actually have many times stood up for Adam West. I don't know that he's number 1, but he's I just think, and I'm not going to waste everybody's time with it on your guys' show, but I don't think you get to where we are today without Adam West. And I think that it was too easy for a long time to just blow him off as the silly Batman. But I think it's got legs. It holds up if you look at it in the era that it happened.
And he's clearly the best to ever wear the cowl that had blue eyebrows.
Yes. Without a doubt, with the artificial eyebrows.
Who's the worst?
Well, coincidentally, it's him as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
When the field is won,
I mean, maybe I just watched Lego Batman for the first time the other night, and
Will Arnett.
I like Will Arnett. I can't remember the movie that well. I might have been editing, but
Could it be that? And we've talked about this. Could maybe Christian Bale be the worst Batman in the best movie?
Yes.
Like,
Where
and I
is
think-
she? The hockey pads.
I used to run professionally. I used to run a youth shelter, and I don't know how I ended up with this crew of kids for like 90 days that just loved Christian Bale and knew I liked comic books, and were like in my office every day, just like, why do you not like Christian Bale, Jake? And I just scream at them like, why do you want to throw? And just
You start
get out
screaming
of there.
profanities at the staff.
but they didn't know. Yeah, I'm like, but it's
I mean, just to help Andrew's cred here, we saw The Dark Knight
Opening night.
and if he remembers correctly, there was this annoying gentleman behind us laughing like the Joker like Mark Hamill's Joker every time the Joker was on screen. And I was just like, dude, you're really gonna ruin it for all of us?
Yes, he is.
And just to ingratiate myself further to you guys, I once in a pub trivia event, we had a photo round. It was 5 live action Superman, 5 live action Batman, except at the time there were only 4. So the 5th one was Lego Batman. You had to name all the actors, and we were the only team that got it 100% correct, and it was only because of me. No one makes me work.
You know what? That's amazing, and I really hope that you use that to impress people at cocktail parties, because you should.
I throw it out all the time, especially when I'm trying to get on another pub trivia team, because that was like my first pub trivia experience.
5 for 5 on Batman, guys. Come on, you need this.
Batman and Superman. Like,
I have a lot of people said, "Oh," and then turned away suddenly.
I lean in and I go, I knew George Reeve. Not Christopher Reeves. George.
Every good story starts with, I won pub trivia one night.
Yes. That's how you know I'm smarter than you.
I mean, I'm the guy that my wife and I were on vacation a couple years ago, and I talked her into, could we go do trivia at the bar down the street? Like, I saw that they've got a trivia night going, and we did it, and it was a thing. It happened.
It was, you did it.
And now she doesn't let you talk her into doing that.
She actually had a lot of fun, but
Oh, that's good.
we won a few drinks.
Yeah. Nice. That's the goal. Win a few drinks, have anecdotes for parties that no one asked for, and yeah, Kevin Conroy Batman, Mark Hamill Joker. So
Yeah, did Mark Hamill as the Joker first? When I first heard this, because I've never seen this before, he sounded like Stewie Griffin. Like the
Oh my
kind of-
gosh. Yeah,
Oh,
sort
it was
of. Yeah.
weird.
There's
Yeah.
like one of his timbres is kind of Stewie adjacent. I hear
Yeah.
what you're saying. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of that.
Isn't it interesting? Like, since you're already steeped in, you're like, no, it's just Joker, but then it just blows
Well,
your mind.
Andrew
Like,
comes in here and shifts everything on its head.
yeah, that's how it normally is. That's how our podcast works. This was the foundation for the DC animated universe too, was it not?
Absolutely. And I don't know, Jake, maybe you can speak to this too. We both love this show. I think the biggest thing is, I don't know, maybe when you say things like rewatchability, and that's kind of overrated because sometimes media can still be fantastic and moving and not be rewatchable. But at the same time, there is something to be said about something that is as analog as it was, I'm using air quotes for your listeners, in 1992, and it's still holding up today, right? The animation is spectacular. The cap tip to the noir days of old, like all of that, like Batman the Animated Series is just as thrilling to watch now in 2020 as it was in 1993, right? And I think that's pretty meaningful, and that speaks to not just the visual spectacle, but also the storytelling. I don't know, Jake, what do you think?
No, I think, yeah, to speak to what you said, Brandon, it definitely, it launched a connected animated universe. They kind of had just like one show going at a time. Usually there'd be sometimes just a little bit of overlap, but it kind of started, this show leads into that show, leads into that show. And you always had Kevin Conroy doing the Batman character when he was part of that. It definitely, in a lot of ways, you look at what's going on with the MCU and the way that it controls theaters right now in a much smaller way with, adolescent and children's, but maybe a little more grown up than you think entertainment. It definitely, the DCU had that kind of connected back then. And I don't know, some ways it probably provided a framework for what happens now in movies by connecting all of those. And Mitch, to what you said, it holds up. One of my number one tests for something that I thought was cool when I was younger is make my kids watch it. And I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. And see what they think. And that doesn't mean like if they don't like it, it's garbage, because they're 6 and 3. What do they know? But
but you're validated if they love
like it, it validates it.
If that's just it. Yeah, like them not. Yeah, it's totally weighted in my favor. Don't get me wrong. But if they don't like it, it's like, what do you know? You make poop jokes all the time. Like you don't know what's funny. But if they like it, like see, it's really good. And so Batman really held up with them. They both were just like on the. Also, I probably shouldn't have let the 3-year-old watch Mask of the Phantasm, but here we are.
Yeah,
I do
today's
that
is a little
being
bit dark
a little
for
bit
kids.
scarier than the rest of the series, or the actual series.
Just a smidge more murder than normal Saturday morning cartoon.
The body count is slightly higher in that one.
Oh, geez, I forgot. Yeah, and then she just has that giant like knife blade on her arm.
She's got a knife hand.
Yeah,
Well,
that's nice.
Speaking of random villains that appeared in that movie for no reason, we watched the second produced episode of Batman the Animated Series, Christmas with the Joker, although it aired number 38. And it's the first produced episode that had both Joker and Robin, but again, not aired in that order.
And depending on the streaming platform of which you try to find it, if you don't have it on physical media, it's a fun game of locating that episode.
Oh yeah,
I think on Prime they've got it listed as the number 2 episode, and on Google TV they've got it on like number 38.
That's why, because I think I had originally saw it on Prime and it was like, oh, episode 2, cool. And then I was like, I have no idea how to find this.
I hypothetically found it very easily in a shared folder that Brandon put it into.
Hypothetically, with hypothetical Spanish subtitles from.
No, they were German.
Oh, they were German,
weren't they? No, you're right.
I feel like it switched back from German to Spanish, which is even weirder. Just because I didn't feel like signing up for the free trial of DC Universe. But because I figured it would be on HBO Max since everything seemed to be over there. I just watched the Harley Quinn series, which is fantastic.
Oh man, I've heard nothing but fantastic things about that. I
haven't gotten to that one yet. I need to catch up on all the things they booted from DC Universe over to HBO Max.
That's one. Titans is another. But yeah, just don't watch it with your kids because they really go for the, hey, we're not a kids cartoon show. We're just going to drop an F-bomb every other second in the pilot.
It's like a show being on after 9 p.m. on FX.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, we gotta say the F word. We're on after 9.
But I forgot how much I love the music for this show. That intro is so epic.
It's greatest intro in the history of television. Full stop.
I will back you on that. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. That's 2 people. That's enough. That's enough.
Yep. Change approved.
But I'm a huge fan, just like Brad. I'm a huge fan of like super long intro sequences. I always think it's a shame when shows like get rid of them. That happens a lot, especially in, like dramas.
Or if you click skip the intro on Netflix, I feel like that's an insult to the show, right? It's like, do it. Just strap in. Treat it like it's the real thing.
They paid money for this minute-long title to just slowly crawl at you.
And the other thing that I can't deal with is when they put these shows on streaming platforms, just general shows, and they change the intro music because they don't want to buy the licensing or the rights to it.
They just did it with Dawson's Creek. Oh my gosh.
They did it with House, and I just can't. So I have to skip the intro. It's horrible.
I feel like Dawson's Creek is the important one, though.
Dawson's Creek's the important one. I will say this. Okay, here's if you really want to. This is the way you work around that, okay? This is what my partner and I do when we watch Dawson's Creek because we're in the middle of a rewatch now, and we hate the song that they chose. So cue it up on Spotify, your favorite part of the song, hit mute when the opening segment starts, and then click play on Spotify on your phone, and then you can jam out the way that God intended to, and then you're fine.
Perfect.
I was hoping you were going to say, just start singing, I don't want
That's what I thought too.
If I didn't have sleeping kids in the house, that would have been the chosen option for sure.
That makes sense.
I'm afraid to admit this on a 90s podcast as a man in my 30s, but I've never seen an episode.
Neither have I.
Oh, good. Okay.
To be fair, I only saw the finale when I guess I don't want to spoil it.
Don't spoil it because I'm going to make Jake watch it. Don't spoil it.
Okay.
Dawson finally go down that creek.
I mean, there is a part of the episode where they're on a boat.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
It's like The Sopranos. Okay.
Yeah. If you just think of it as the 90s Sopranos.
There we go. That's all I needed to hear. Suddenly I'm sold on Dawson's Creek.
There you go. It's the 90s Sopranos, and it is not at all what One Tree Hill completely ripped off half a decade later.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And also launched their stars into mid-stardom, just like One Tree Hill.
Sure did. Hey, Michelle Williams has like 3 Academy Award nominations.
That's true. But Evan Rachel Wood was in that Beatles movie.
Yes, she was.
These people, they're all famous enough to be in some sort of garbage Fox show where you're like dressed in some kind of a mask.
Or to have like a movie that was funded predominantly by Amazon Prime.
But good news for them is if they're on Fox after 9 o'clock, they can say the F word.
Exactly.
Yes.
They almost have to.
So did anyone remember that Joker sings the classic Batman version of Jingle Bells?
That blew my mind. Of course, Jake, you remembered. That blew my mind. So I watched it and I forgot that part. And then, of course, I like paused it and I was like, was that the first time that song was ever sung? And I played this game of trying to figure out what's the lineage of that. I don't even know.
Did you see the cracked article as well? On Google?
No.
Okay. I did actually track down the lineage all by myself then.
Nice.
Well, because I also, my brain broke and I was like, is this the first time it was ever showed? Because then I flashed back to, they used to cut that out and just on Cartoon Network play that during the holidays. I think it's, or the WB. I don't remember. But no, then I remembered Bart sang it in the first episode of The Simpsons when they were in church.
Classic.
Yeah, and then this article that I read presumes it originated in the 60s when Adam West's Batman was on television.
Blue eyebrows. We would have nothing without the blue eyebrows.
And the eye thing. Over
the Batusi.
The Batusi, is that what that's called? Where
The dance is called the Batusi. He won a dance-off contest for the fate of Gotham City.
Amazing.
Okay,
he also once won a surf contest against the Joker, but I can't remember who he was dancing with.
This right here, if you all want to know why, if you all want to know why we started a podcast, that's it right there.
It's because by saying it here, I just stopped myself from blurting it in the middle of dinner tomorrow, and that's why I'm still able to maintain a family. And that I'm going to be in a board meeting in a week and be like, it's called the Batusi if I don't say it here. So
saves both your marriage and your job.
All of it.
What a great outlet. I also questioned, how did the Joker smuggle a rocket-powered Christmas tree into Arkham? Or I assume they were in Arkham.
Well, everybody was in on it, right? Okay,
yeah,
so
they were all just decorating it. And
I watched the episode 2 times in a row just in case I missed something, right? And so the second time through, I watched that scene, and he makes eye contact with half the people in that room, and they give him a nod, and they back away as though they're like, oh yeah, that's the plan. We got to get out of the way now, right? So not only did he smuggle a rocket in there, but somehow he got everybody in Arkham Asylum on board with his plan to be all like, yeah, only you can fly away on this rocket ship, and we'll all stay here.
That was a pretty ineffective full body cavity search. I'm just saying. It just feels like
he definitely keistered it. He keistered it.
When you talk with other comic book people, there's always this, inevitably it always lands at, if I got to write it, and everybody's got their one thing they would do. And I'm just going to tell you, if I ever got to write Batman, Arkham closes in issue 1. And it's like the government just shows up and says, no, you don't get to run this anymore. You have a breakout an hour. We're just shutting this thing down. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, there would be no funding. Actually,
exactly.
The mental hospital in Washington keeps doing that, and they keep getting funding, though.
Did they not do that? With,
a lot of rocket Christmas trees up in the Northwest.
Well, wasn't that the plot of Gotham Academy or something? Or was that not Arkham Asylum that they closed down?
I mean, it's been closed before. They shut it down. Every couple of years, somebody has the same original idea I just did. And they're like, what if there was no Arkham? And then, comics, you got to put the toy back in the box when you're done so the next person can do it all over again.
That's fair. Speaking of things that had probably been done, Batman just being like, I could never get past the title of It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
I laughed at that. I was like, that's so Batman.
I'm going to tell you, It's a Wonderful Life is, oh man, I'm sorry to everybody watching this. I just moved and I'm in a packed room and my dog is dancing on the unstable bed and everything. So I'm going to admit It's a Wonderful Life is one of my favorite Christmas films. I love Christmas. Mitch knows that's a pretty high ranking for me. I watched it for the first time as a kid because Batman watched it. I was just like, well, if Batman came around on this movie and thought it was okay, I must see it, even though it's in black and white. That can't be that bad of a movie if Bruce Wayne likes it.
That's awesome.
The influence of Batman. Is this? Can we talk about the TV and the Batmobile? Because that was in 1992. That's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially because the whole thing had sort of an Art Deco kind of look to it.
And the controller looked like a jigsaw puzzle. That
you have a CRT in your car. How is that even happening? It doesn't make any sense.
It'd been a while since I had seen some of this stuff, and I just was so impressed. I'm in 1992, they gave him pretty nice looking flat screen in the console of the Batmobile. Nicely done.
I thought the computer graphics on the Bat computer looked very from Star Wars, they were scanning a grid and it looked like the original, this is the plans for the Death Star. I was like, okay, I can dig it. Futuristic computer in the 90s.
It's weird to think back then, nobody, I don't know if I made a Batman cartoon today, I don't know that I can put a TV screen in the Batmobile because it's that's distracted driving. We can't have Batman doing that.
That's true.
And it's just weird to think what was not an issue back then. They're like, Yeah, let him watch TV while he drives. He's
There would be a whole hashtag for it. There would be
there'd be a campaign.
Don't be like Batman. 10 and 2.
Yeah. 10 and 2. Don't be like Batman's out at midnight.
Also, that car sounded like when it started up, sounded like a 60s, a 60s Oldsmobile 442. That they like the engine. It was just really intense. I thought, did it have rockets on it or something? I thought that's what made it fast.
Yeah, the like weapons grade flames spewing out the back of it while he drives down Main Street.
Well, that, and it's like twice the car length of a regular car, but it's just still has 4 wheels, and I don't know how that thing turns successfully.
The U-turn that he flips in the middle of the pursuit, right? When they think that he's going to go to the studio, and then he's like, no, he's there instead. And that's downtown, of course, which is like downtown in Gotham City, which is supposed to be New York City. I like downtown. I'm not sure that's a thing, but, and they could apparently do a whole sweep of Gotham City to make sure everything's safe pretty quickly. So like they want you to think that Gotham's big, but it's also not when it doesn't need to be. I don't know.
Yeah, you could get out to an observatory on a hill in no time.
Right. Or like when he says this is an exact replica of Gotham City and it's like 5 buildings. What was that about?
With the train just circling the entire city. Which I thought was,
But here's the thing. Maybe I'm setting myself up to be embarrassing here, but like y'all were in though, right? Like you were totally bought in.
Oh yeah,
like,
no, totally.
Silly as the whole thing was, when I watched it, I was like, God, this is so awesome. Like, I was in. I literally watched it a second time as soon as it was done. I was like, I'm gonna watch it one more time. Yeah.
Like the only thing that was really gnawing at me was, where does the Joker get all this special equipment when he's been in Arkham for like he just escaped? Like he turned an entire observatory into a cannon turret, and then which because I studied some astronomy in college, and I went to a few observatories in my time, and I know for a fact you
never got that course.
Yeah, I know for a fact how slow it takes for a telescope to move.
Yeah, that mechanism could not go that fast.
So he's clearly an advanced engineer. Right? That's one thing we learned. I guess I have another nitpick. Is every single thing that he had was like weapons grade, except for the little like fighter planes that had his face on the front that Batman hit with the bat. I kept waiting. I was like, are they going to fire like ammunition at him? Like, are there guns on those things? And there wasn't. They literally just flew into his bat so he can make them explode. And I was like, everything else had a gun on it except for the thing that was targeted to fly at somebody.
They were being shot at by the guys in the balcony. They're like, snipers. I'm like, it's 2 guys with like Tommy guns.
It was a Tommy gun.
Not even aiming.
Snipers. That's the Sopranos influence, right?
Totally. And
they were shooting from the hip too. It was like they weren't even aiming.
Batman kept going to all these presents that Joker was just leaving for him, like being like, I'm just gonna open this immediately and not like be concerned that it might be a bomb or something, which they weren't.
Yeah. Can we talk about the last present then? Okay, so gives him the present. Spoiler alert, it's a pie in the face.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, pie in the face. And then the frame just stays on Batman for like what? At least 4 Mississippis. I swear to God. It's like 4 Mississippis of just the pie cream falling down his face. The Joker's got the people dangling over a big pool of acid, and he's threatening to cut the rope to drop them in. He doesn't cut the rope until after the 4 Mississippis, and then Batman wipes his face so he can see and save the day. If he really wanted to drop him in the acid, just cut it while you got the cream on the guy's face, right?
Also, why is it not just a pipe bomb? Yeah. I mean, then Batman it's over.
I have in all caps in my notes. Why did he even open the present?
It's just, here's the thing. Joker, you've got this loophole of insanity, and you can always be like, oh, Joker does anything you don't understand. It's because he's the Joker. He's just nuts. But with Batman, it is like, just punch this dude. Like, just give him a really solid punch in the face. Don't open that present. You're Batman. Do something about this.
I mean, I guess this is the big series that really, at least in children's media, showed that the Joker was the other side of the coin to Batman, in my memory.
Well, so if he keeps breaking out, maybe just let him fall into the cauldron of bubbling hot lava or whatever that was.
And
like,
was that the same hot cauldron that he just saved everyone else from? Like, because Joker ran in the opposite direction to get to those stairs on the opposite side of the facility, then ran up the stairs and then almost fell back into the lava.
I remember as a kid always being confused about cartoon geography.
That's fair.
And just like, which direction? Wait, I thought that the stairs went that way. Why are they in the kitchen now?
It's the
going on? Not our
90s,
fault
man.
anymore.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't ask questions. Like, there's no room for logic in the 90s. You just let it happen.
3 walls on everything.
I think my favorite on this list is Brandon's last point.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just don't open the box.
No. That was 2 points ago.
No, the next point, I should say.
Oh, would you like me to say it?
Yeah, I think it's yours.
So this is at the end. This is after everything's over. And it was, why did Commissioner Gordon need to give billionaire Bruce Wayne a copy of It's a Wonderful Life to watch? Like, shouldn't you just have that in his, in his video library?
Mitch, you can speak to this. Has there been any point in history where that was like a hard thing to find? It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Like, VHS was a thing in the 90s, so Bruce should have had a pretty extensive collection.
Would they
Bruce
not
probably
re-air
had
it?
Laserdisc because that was like the big fancy thing then, right?
That's
so,
true.
and you can bet your sweet bippy that It's a Wonderful Life was on Laserdisc. But maybe, can I be that guy and try to make it make sense?
Go for it. Go for it.
So the first time the Joker comes on screen, right? Robin sits him down. He's like, "Oh, I think you're gonna like this movie." He turns on the TV and he's like, "Oh, wrong channel." And every time he changes the channel, it's just a close up of a shadowy Joker butt in front of the fireplace. And then finally, the Joker turns around and he says, "We won't be showing It's a Wonderful Life tonight. We're gonna show you the Joker Christmas special." Is it possible that maybe the Joker neutralized all feeds of the movie for the network?
Or maybe they were going to hit record on their VCR at that moment.
Neutralize.
And they had to go find a copy.
Yeah.
I do love that the Joker in his special said he referred to it as the show that nobody wants to see, but everyone will watch, which is like everything on CBS, basically. I just feel like that's. Anyway, oh my gosh! Well, look at
we're almost over.
time.
So I mean, we are definitely over. Yeah, we have another guest coming up.
I mean, we had to make
tomorrow's
room for
episode.
the poetry reading.
That's true.
Clearly, there's more to be said here, so
is-
we're gonna have to have you guys back at some point.
Yeah, we'll take another deep dive into animated 90s cartoons. I want to do Spider-Man the animated series. I love that.
Yes.
Do you guys have
See
any
my
final?
eyes light up.
Yes. Do you guys have any final thoughts on this on Christmas with the Joker?
Oh man, I mean, this was one of the first iterations we had of what I consider to be the definitive Joker meeting the definitive Batman. And it's impeccable holiday cheer at the same time too. So I don't like, it doesn't get much more 90s than that as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, Batman the Animated Series still holds up 100%.
Oh yeah.
It's the most wholesome take on a serial killer that you will ever see when the Joker abducts people for Christmas so that he can pie Batman. It's wonderful.
The whole plot. Oh, brilliant. Well, Andrew, I guess.
No, I liked it. I certainly will not be watching the whole thing, but I thought this was a fun episode.
And that's it for this holiday edition of Namely 90s. Thank you so much to Jake and Mitch of Watching Comics Podcast with Jake and Mitch. Do you guys want to tell them one last time where they can find you?
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter at WatchComicsPod. That's comics with an X at WatchComicsPod. We are a proud member of the Geek Dad Podcast Network, so you can find us on Geek Dad. You can find us at watchingcomics.com and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. And
thanks again.
Yeah, and you can find us on Twitter at Namely90s with a 90S, or find our personal accounts at bschwitty and at NamelyAndrew, and wish us a Merry Happy. You can also contact us through our website, Namely90s.com. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, Nightwing, Deezer, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your podcasts at. I'm Brandon. That's Andrew. Thank you one huge final time to Jake and Mitch from Watching Comics Podcast for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. This was a blast.
Yeah, thank you guys for putting up with us on your show. We loved it.
No, thank you for coming on, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
Merry Christmas.